My name is Emily Gomer, and we're excited to bring you another episode of the Mastery of Connections with MC Holmes, or Alan Holmes. We met Alan through the Happy Neighborhood Project, and uh, Alan, is, Alan is all about networking and making connections, and we affectionately call him the Master Connector. So uh, that's sort of how this Mastery of Connections show came about uh, about mastering the art of making a connection with somebody or connections with other people. Um, so I think I'm going to bring Alan in here, say any more, and then introduce our guest today. So we have a great guest today. So, uh, Alan, you come in here and uh, uh,
Yes, good morning, good
yeah,
morning, good morning, Emily. How are you? Can you hear me?
yep, freaking hear ya.
All right, all right, all right. Welcome. I'm kind of restreaming on the World of Abilities here with Mr. Donald Brown. Now, before I bring in the guest, I want to just first of all say the World of Abilities and the Mastery of Connections has been an integral part in my life for bringing us together. So, with that said, let's go. Get started. The gentleman I'm going to bring out today is the gentleman who is his name is Donald Brown. He's an international British sculptor. Just a little bit about him. He was 2019 Master Indoor Champion, 60 meters, 2019 Triple Indoor Champion with 100 and 200 meters, and also he was a ranked number one in 3 events at the age of 56. So um, Donald Brown, it is an honor and privilege if you want to come on in and say hello to the folks and tell us a little bit about you and how you got started. Um, I'm honored to privilege and welcome to the Mastery of Connection show. Tell the world a little bit about yourself and what got you into what you do and how you are able to come up with the ability to change the world.
Well, first of all, thank you, Emily and Alan, for having me on the show. And yes, indeed, I'm more than happy to share a brief history of my background and how I've arrived at this particular point, this juncture in my life. Long story short, I was born, like most people, but I had asthma when I was about 5, 6 years old. And I've had asthma all of my life. And my self esteem and confidence was very low, and therefore my self-esteem was somewhat of a problem in terms of just mixing and socializing. Then one day at school, the teacher said, "Here's a piece of wood and do what you want." A figure of authority giving me permission to do what I want. So I took the wood, and I noticed that the other students were cutting and chipping on the outside into the wood. So I took a drill and drilled a hole in the center of the wood, and took a file and started filing from the inside out and creating these weird and wonderful shapes. Long story short, the teachers were very impressed. And all of a sudden, I was getting attention. People wanted to know who Donald was, to see my artwork. And that feeling of I'm good at something was like, I don't want to lose this. And so I realized that I had maybe a bit of a talent in sculpting. So I pursued it from about the age of 11, 12. And by the age of 14, I stuck to it religiously, and I was on national television in England and became a bit of a celebrity in school. And so that again helped to sort of build my self esteem and confidence. I then went on, of course, to university, got my qualifications, and realized that I wanted to be more than just a sculptor. I wanted my work to have a meaning and to hopefully give an impact, a positive impact to as many people as possible. So I, at the same time, going back to my asthma, because of my asthma, I couldn't really participate in sports until sort of my mid to late teens. And I realized I had a passion for sport as well as art. And as you mentioned, current days now that I'm 50, well, when I was 56, I'm 60 now. When I was 56, I became world champion and European champion, and realized that combining both my passions for art and sport was a great way to reach all types of individuals, regardless of genre, regardless of their walks of life. And so I create sculptures that promote respect, principle, discipline, building self-esteem and confidence, communication, leadership, teamwork, and really promoting positive principles for life through my art, celebrating the ancestors of all nations, generalizing how with art we can inspire and empower not just ourselves, but all people. So then I decided, well, how do I actually take this to the world globally? Well, first of all, I had to do my due diligence. And so I did a lot of residencies in schools, both voluntary and paid, and was able to fine-tune the art of using sculpture as a vehicle to inspire and empower both young and old, teachers and staff. And I progressed from there to public speaking and doing a lot of public events. I was invited to the National Black Theatre Festival in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And I was there for 2 weeks. Well, I was invited there for 2 weeks. I stayed in America for 10 years. It was an amazing experience. I would preach a sermon at a church, and members of the congregation would say, "Can you come to our church? Can you come to our church?" And before I knew it, I was on tour without even trying, which led to being broadcast to 177 countries, over 100 million homes in 177 countries via satellite twice. And that was a great opportunity, and featured in Essence magazine and other publications as well. And so what I realized is that when I shared my works with audiences, it had the desired effect of, as I said, inspiring, elevating, and educating. But what I realized was that I'm just one person. I can only do one school or one venue at a time. And so the idea then sort of birthed in my mind, how do I duplicate myself? And so I wanted a way in which I could employ artists to go into schools at no charge to the schools, so that they could now work with staff and students to create works of art that also promoted positive principles, respect, discipline, patience, humility, and the list goes on. And in order to do that, I had to also create a base and a foundation around that. And so even going into schools individually on my own, and even employing artists or planning to employ artists to go into schools, I still wanted to reach an even bigger audience, a global audience. And so that's where the creation of a sculpture titled A Sporting Chance for Peace was designed and created. It took me about 4 years to create it, because at the time I was taking care of my parents. But it took about 4 years to create. And in that sculpture, again, it incorporates a plethora of positive principles and promotes so many positive messages. So the idea was, how do I take my vision and mission globally? Well, the idea is to have that particular sculpture, which measures 7 foot by 5 foot, to every country in the United Nations. And so I'm looking to have that particular sculpture designed, or should I say cast in bronze, installed and unveiled in up to 193 countries of the United Nations, possibly more. So I'm going to have a limited edition of 200 made and cast in total. And the idea is to have these sculptures unveiled, and it will take time, maybe 5, 10, maybe 15 years. I would say between 10 to 15 years, which is great, because the longer it takes, the longer it allows me to raise the awareness of the ethos and the message of the campaign, which is to raise, as I said, the awareness and promote positive principles for life. The campaign is called the Global Arts Empowerment Campaign. The Global Arts Empowerment Campaign. And I have a video prepared that I'm sure either Emily or Alan will share with the audience. And pretty much what I'm saying now, I say on the video, and I encapsulate the whole sort of package. And so the way to do this that I've realized is I have to fund everything myself. And I wanted to create a way in which I could sustain the campaign, as well as employing artists in schools around the world, as well as covering the cost to unveil all of these sculptures in all of these countries. And that's where the audience come into play, because people are asking, well, how can we become involved? Well, what I've done, I have another sculpture called the Millennium Monument. And the lithographic prints of those sculptures are already in process to be printed and will be released soon. And so the idea is to make those prints available to the general public and to have them signed, dated, numbered, and authenticated with a certificate. And just to break down the mathematics so you understand how it works and how I'm saying thank you to those who wish to support. The actual set of this 3 prints, because that particular sculpture is 3-dimensional, and the 3 prints shows that sculpture from 3 different angles. The price of those sets of prints is $750. However, I'm creating a list, an A-list. Anyone that's interested in supporting or being a part of this campaign will receive a 50% discount. So it will be $375. And that will be, if you will, their contribution to supporting the campaign. But this is where it gets interesting. Excuse me. I've partnered with a fundraising, or should I say a trade company regarding supporting my fundraising. Now, if you're not familiar with trading, it is something that is here to stay. People are making a fortune from it, and it is complex. But the good news is I partnered with some of the best traders in the world, and they look and love what I'm doing and are happy to support what I'm doing. And so as a result of having and compiling a list of buyers for the 2,500 sets of prints, there will be 2,500 sets, I should have said. There are 2,500 sets of prints. Once those 2,500 sets of prints are purchased at $375, that will generate the revenue to launch the Global Arts Empowerment Campaign. A percentage of that revenue will be placed under the administration of the trading company. And from the profits coming in from the trade, that will allow me not just to sustain the campaign, but to also employ artists worldwide to go into schools. And a percentage of that revenue will go back as a thank you payment to the buyers of those 2,500 sets of Millennium Monument prints. And in short, it will be 10 times the amount that was paid. So anyone purchasing a set of prints for $375 within 12 months will receive a thank you payment of $3,750. So that's in a nutshell what I'm doing, how I'm funding it. But it's not a get-rich scheme. Certainly there is a thank you payment, which is, I believe, significant. But the main objective here is to generate the funding that will not only, as I say, sustain the campaign, but will allow the trading side to also do not just employing artists to go into schools, but also employing therapists to deal with victims of bullying and violence. There's so much more to the campaign, but for now, I will just share with you those 2 areas of artists in schools and therapists working with victims of bullying and violence. And as I said, using art and sport as a vehicle to really educate and elevate both present and future generations. So that, in a nutshell, is about myself and what I'm doing with this campaign. And so, Alan, or Emily, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Oh my goodness! Anybody who knows me, it's very difficult for me to be quiet this long. But I was, but all jokes aside, I was very when I met you 4 weeks ago. Actually, it feels like 4 weeks. It's been about 2 to 4 weeks. I met you, Donald, and for those who know, as MC Holmes for the show and a Master Connector, I'm on various different channels. I'm on an amazing platform that I shared your work with on the No Card. But I met you through a very empowering platform through My City with Bob Friedenthal. He did an interview for me, and you shared with me the incredible, chance of us meeting. I don't believe in coincidences, and you sat on it for 4 months for various reasons, the personal reasons, and the very fact that you and I connected. That's what makes this full circle, and why the Mastery of Connections is such a we're honored and humbled as a MC Holmes and the voice for the Mastery of Connections in conjunction with Emily Gomer and Kurt Roscoff. We're forever grateful. Thank you. I know that as a position of national, ambassador for the Southern California and the U.S. ambassador, I'm just a small integral piece. I know that Kurt and Emily and the World of Abilities channel there and the audiences are definitely going to want to learn more. So before we bring Emily out and share with the audience a little more places we can hear Donald Brown, where if someone says, well, we're waiting for it to be streamlined, streamed on Restream and put on the LinkedIn Mastery of Connections LinkedIn group, as well as on the No Card. Where can someone search for if they want to see this just as quickly as possible?
Well, that's a great question. And once again, Alan, it is an honor to appoint you as the US ambassador for this campaign. And although we may have more ambassadors, I'm very confident and grateful to have you on board in that role as an ambassador for this campaign. With regards to how this information will be disseminated, right at this point, the key objective is to compile, as I said, that A list of buyers for the 2,500 sets of prints. The way that will be done is each time someone expresses an interest in being a part of this campaign, what they would do is speak to the person who referred them. And the reason for that is because once they do that, that particular person who referred them will have an ID number. And that's important because once they receive the information from the person who referred them, they will have a form to fill out, which they will send to my company. That form will include the ID number of the person who referred them. But also on that document, to answer your question, will be information, more information on this particular campaign. That form will include not just my press kit, it will include the video explaining the campaign, as well as the link to the written version of this campaign to explain the overview. So all of the information really will be included in that one email that interested parties will receive from the person who referred them. So, for example, Alan, as you share this with your associates in your network, you will forward your confirmation email that you received, because as I said, it contains your ID number and all the information that anyone would need regarding finding out more information. There's not a website for this at the moment because that's not the objective. The objective, first of all, is to compile the list. No money is being requested at this time. Even with the 50% discount, the $375 is not due at this time. We don't want payment yet. Our only focus is to build the A list to 2,500. Once those 2,500 sets of Millennium Monument prints have been reserved, once they've been reserved, then payments will be requested. So people have time. And there's no penalty if people reserve their one or two or more sets of prints, and for whatever reason, something arises and they can't fulfill their obligation of purchasing the prints. That's not a problem. It's okay. There will be a B list. Anyone that doesn't make it on the A list will be put onto the B list. And if anyone on the A list cannot purchase their prints that they reserved, then the next person in line on the B list will be offered their position. So just to recap and to answer your question again, more information can be provided by the person who referred you. They will have a confirmation document that they will email to you. You can then review that document. If you wish to become part of the campaign, it's very simple, your name, your address, email, and so forth, and you forward that to my company. I will then have it processed, and then you will receive a confirmation email with your ID number with the same information that you can now share to your referrals. Now, let me just hit on this quick point. 2,500 sets of prints. And by way of incentivizing individuals to spread the word, every time you refer someone an additional $375 will be added to your 3,750. So remember, if you've reserved a set of prints and of course eventually purchased those set of prints, that will put you in position from our trading platform to receive 3,750. And you may stop at that. But if you refer people, 5, 10, 15, 20 people, for each person you refer, an additional $375 will be added to your 3,750. And that's an incentive to help us to expedite reaching our goal of 2,500 sets of Millennium Monument prints being reserved. I hope that answers your question, Alan.
Oh, absolutely. And just to clarify, that 3,750 is that the number is based on what?
That is based on the projection of the trading platform. So again, if we break it down even further, if you look at the 2,500 sets of prints purchased at 375, that's just over 930,000, of which 500,000 will be placed under the administration of the trading platform. And based on their projection, within 12 months, we will have enough to pay each individual or the buyers of the Millennium Monument prints 10 times what they pay, which is, as I said, the 3,750. And that's based on the projection. And these are some of the best traders in the world. I personally invested 20,000 with them, and every month, without fail, I'm getting profits. And I realized, well, I'm just one person with just a small amount. What can be done with a greater amount? And so that is how the 3,750 is determined. It is based on the projected trade from the experts over 12 months.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, Donald Brown, every time we have a guest on the Mastery of Connections, I get more and more just humbled to be a part of it, and you're no exception. This has been an incredible, incredible interview and story and journey. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your story and journey at the Mastery of Connections. Now, if Emily and or Kurt wants to step up to the mic, we would love to let's say thank you once again for allowing us to be a part of the Mastery of Connections in your circle, and also with the Disability Channel and the World of Ability podcast that Emily has on Wednesdays nights as well. It's a separate show, but we support her is in 120%. Emily, are you out there? We're calling from California to UK to where you are in Wisconsin. There she is. I knew she wouldn't leave me. She was probably so blown away by the information she had to thinking twice. I know Emily. She's always working hard. Emily, please tell us a little bit more while your audience could possibly hear about the Donald Brown experience. And I'm just gonna, as always, stop talking and let Emily know, share a little bit more about what she does. Because after all, this is the Mastery of Connections. Donald Brown is our guest, and now he's gonna get a little bit about what other, as well as your audience, Emily, of what can we expect. Go ahead, Emily.
So I mean, we do have, as Alan was saying, we do have our several other shows. We are working with a nonprofit TV network out of Texas, as well as we have other platforms like Alan was saying, No Card and Easy Expo. Where I can have the video as well. And as well as right now we're live streaming to YouTube and Facebook, and so things like that.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, Emily, as always, you've been just a tremendous support since the Mastery of Connections has started. And on behalf of of all of the listeners. Well, thank you, and thank you, Donald Brown, for kind of restreaming with the Emily, the Emily Hour, as well as the World of
Alan,
Ability.
if I could interject, I'm
Yes,
just
sir.
preempting possibly viewers who are watching. They obviously have not been referred, or you necessarily, or Emily or Kurt hasn't necessarily yet referred them. So there's a bit of a disconnect at the moment. So what would be good is for either Emily or yourself or Kurt to provide and make available a direct connect with those who have already received their confirmation. I don't know if Emily wishes to also be aligned, and certainly more than welcome to. But there needs to be a connect between, once this show is finished, what do they actively do? Because I know, Kurt and yourself, Alan, you've reached people directly. So there needs to be a bridge
Absolutely.
that connects. So maybe you can make either your email or however you wish to make the connection, so that viewers who are interested now need to have a direct contact with following up, so they can receive your information or Kurt's information, and that way we don't have a disconnect.
Oh, absolutely. And just want to let you know, for those listeners and those listening on the restream, I'm glad Donald brought that up, because the Mastery of Connections actually has an email, and this is specifically for the Mastery of Connections show. It's Mastery of Connections with an S at gmail.com. So if you are those who are listening on the restream or on the live, if you let a message say with the subject line interest of the Millennium Monument, in the reference to this show, and put your name and at least contact or phone number, we will get back to you immediately, as early as convenience. It'll be that again is mastery of connections at gmail.com. And Emily, as always, will supply that in various different platforms throughout her channel. So thank you, Donald. Yes, we definitely want to stay in kind of in reference, so there isn't disconnect, because this is one of those fast moving platforms and movements that we want to make sure that everyone gets credit from the person who referred
And
them over.
let me also repeat that, not to be sort of frightened by payment being due at this point. That's very important, because it gives people a chance to just sort of resonate with the whole campaign. And if they don't even have the funds now, obviously they'll have time to put that together. But like I said before, even if they reserve their prints, basically it gives them first refusal for buying their sets of prints. And if they can't, for whatever reason, it's fine. There's no penalty.
Well, thank you for clarifying that as well, and that actually helps me help the come up with the subject line. So if we, for those out there listening on live, have the subject line as I am interested in reserving the prints for the Millennium Monument, and we'll kind of know that that's related to this particular show and this particular project. So, oh wow, what a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. Mastery of Connections is always bringing you different resources. Join us next week and see what kind of guests and what kind of resources of Mastery of Connections. I encourage you to definitely check out the no card. We do have a link tree that we can provide for you that will showcase the World of Abilities, Kurt's projects. We have other projects coming along, and then of course the incredible guest for today, Mr. Donald Brown, kind of restreaming out it from the areas of United Kingdom. Until next time, I want to thank each and every one of you for being who you are and bringing out the artist in you. So, Massive Connections, MC Holmes. Donald, I saw you.
Yeah, I just thought, I think a great point to end on is this. Anyone who is remotely interested, just go to YouTube and type in The Millennium Monument by Donald Brown. The Millennium Monument by Donald Brown. That probably is a great way just to introduce this actual campaign to you. The Millennium Monument by Donald Brown. The video is online. There'll be 2 videos that you see. The one to watch is 3 minutes, 48 seconds. And then after you've seen that video, if you're not inspired by then, well, that's fine. But if you are, then as Alan said, get in touch and then more information will be provided for you. Thank you so much for having me on board. I greatly appreciate it, Emily and Alan. Thank you.
It's an honor and praise. Thank you so much, Donald and Emily. We love you. We love you both for being a part of this incredible journey for this Wednesday. What is it? April 17th, 2024. Thank you for your time. God bless and